Welcome to another lecture. This one is specifically for those who are doing MLA formatting. If you're looking for tips for APA formatting, please see my other lecture that covers specifically APA formatting. We're going to start, as always, with a screen share. And we're going to pull this up nice and big. So we're going to do a quick MLA format review, then we're going to look at in-text citations, and finally that works cited page. Remember, MLA, everything has to be double-spaced, 12-point font Times New Roman, 1-inch margins all the way around the page numbers in the upper right-hand corner, your last name in front of those page numbers, and have an MLA header on the first page as the first 4 lines. It doesn't go in the header. Let's do a quick review on a random document. So I'm going to go to a random document I pulled up, obviously not formatted correctly. So what we're going to do now is we are going to do an insert, page number, top of the page. This is exactly where it belongs. It just deleted everything else because it's been flagged and it knows that it now has to be in correct font type. You'll notice I have this extra line. I think I need to make that go away too, or my alignment's going to be wrong. See how that shifts it up? So this is all you should have right there. Your MLA header, well, it needs to be double spaced. I'm going to hit a Control-2 to make sure my alignment is correct. And I've just filled in my MLA header information. Notice this does not go in the header part of the document. It does not go up in here. That would put it on every page and that would be incorrect. It needs to be down here for your MLA. You also need to have your title. And then your paper would start after that. All right, let's go ahead. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. We're going to take a look now at in-text citations. Well, when do you need to have an MLA in-text citation and why? Basically, you need an in-text citation for all information. If it sounds like a fact and it reads like a fact, then it's a fact. Give us the in-text citation. If it's someone else's ideas, if you've read it somewhere, if you know that someone else has had this idea, find the source and cite it. And for those of you who may have done research on multiple different avenues of this topic as the years have progressed, and you're just now coming into this class and having to learn this, you may be wondering why you still have to cite your source. Well, you know it, and it's general information to you because you've been researching it for that long, but your audience doesn't know that, and they need to see you as an expert. So make sure you do give them that source to say, see, this is where this comes from, and this is how I know this. But more on that later. Please note, with the in-text citation, you just need the author last name and the page number in a set of parentheses. There's no comma. It's just parenthesis, author last name, page number, close parenthesis. And note that the period always goes outside of the in-text citation, not before it. You want to include it with the sentence that it belongs to, not starting off a new sentence. Here are some samples for you of in-text citations. So if the author's name is not in the sentence, you will have it in the parentheses. So that first one you're looking at, the author's name is actually given in the stem, it's in the sentence, we already know who you're referencing, we just need the page number now. The standard sample would of course be those parentheses, last name, page number or numbers if you're summarizing a span of a few pages, close parenthesis. If you have two sources with the author having the same last name, but it's two different authors, you're going to include a first initial. If you've got no author You're going to use the first word of the title, first word only, not the entire title. And then if you've got two sources by the same author, this is the only spot you will have a comma for an in-text citation. You'll have the author last name, comma, first word of the article, just the first word in quotations, and then that page number, close parenthesis. So these are some pretty solid examples for you to be following and for you to see. I should have these up and available for you with this lecture. Beyond plagiarism, the biggest reason to really highlight your sources is to show that you are the expert here. You've done the legwork to know exactly what you're talking about. Let's take a real-life example. I recently had someone tell me that the tragus piercing was for migraines because they heard it secondhand from someone who spoke to one doctor. And I didn't know what I was talking about because I don't have MD after my name, so I should just not voice my opinion on it. She could not even tell me what type of piercing it was, just point to the general area on the ear. Does this sound like a credible location to get your information from? Now, let's talk about someone who did do research on the topic and see if this person sounds like a source you would view as credible. As someone who suffers from migraines and used to end up in the ER about once every 3 to 6 weeks for migraines, I personally did over a year's worth of peer-reviewed research on the topic. I asked multiple doctors about the piercing that's needed and evaluated the opinions, personal experiences of real individuals I interviewed, and scientific studies that I found from peer-reviewed journals. I can tell you that it was not the tragus piercing I was informed on. It was the daith piercing. Now, had I had a fully researched paper in hand to give this individual, it is doubtful that the other person would have listened to reason because I still don't have MD after my name, as she repeated numerous times, no matter what I said. However, 3 other friends who suffered from migraines did listen to the research I had been doing and asked a lot of further questions because they decided to get this piercing. They even waited until my piercings had healed, a time of approximately 4 to 6 months, to inquire about the effectiveness of the piercing. The effect was 1 breakthrough migraine every 3 to 6 months versus the breakthrough migraine every 3 to 6 weeks. Had I not been able to direct these individuals to valid sources that I had been scouring myself, they probably wouldn't have listened. They saw me as an authority on the topic for a few reasons. The first was because I had valuable personal experience and I took that as my catalyst to do further research. From that research, they saw for themselves that the statistics and data on the topic was relevant to their situations. In short, they viewed me as an authority on the topic because I was able to cite my sources. Your readers will do the same for you. Cite those sources. It shows you're credible, and you do want that level of credibility with your audience. For the MLA work cited, there are a few things that we need to cover. MLA must-haves. It must start on the top of its own page, on the very first line of its very first page. It needs to have a centered title of Works Cited. There has to be hanging indents for each and every citation. You need to have alphabetical order by author last name. And you have to have your standard MLA font type. Times New Roman 12-point font, double-spaced. What I have for you next are some basic MLA must-haves, including exact punctuation. You can use this as a solid template to be able to find your information. Please note that each type of citation, online source, peer-reviewed journal article, newspaper, YouTube video, every single source has something just a little bit different. So this is only going to get you the basics. It will not get you everything. What I have here is kind of an outline of what it should look like for an online journal, something that you maybe found in the academic library. Note that webpage has that ebscohost.com included, and there is a period at the end of that. For some MLA, you also need that access date if you have an online web source, not an online academic journal that you found from the library, an online web page. Why? Because what if somebody goes in and changes that information after you submit your paper? It does happen. So make sure you have that access date as well. What I'd like to do next is I'd like to show you 3 different PDF files from articles I've pulled for research in my own academic endeavors. Each one shows this information in a slightly different location. So we're going to go to a new screen share. Let me find my PDF. And we're going to start here. So here's my article title. It would not be in italics, and I would have to make sure I actually have correct capitalization, because MLA is a little bit pickier on that than APA. This is not correct capitalization according to MLA standards, so be mindful of that. I have my author here, and if I scroll down toward the bottom, here's my publication date, here's the academic journal it was found in. Well, there's some other information along the edge that would help me out as well. So be mindful that that might be where you have to look to find what you're searching for. And depending on how it prints, you might have to do a little bit more digging. This one, here's my authors. Here's my title. Look at that. It's got correct capitalization already according to MLA style. That's great for me, makes it easier. If I scroll down, what I have here is I have the publisher. I have the publication year. Here's the publication month date specifically. When I put it into my actual citation, I need to remember that 3 letters only for MLA on the month. I've got the journal title here. This is the volume number. And this is the issue number. The volume number would be like the year that it came out. So it's been in circulation for that many cycles. And it's the very first issue within that cycle. If I come here, I have, look at that, correct capitalization. Oh, whew, makes my job so much easier. We have the publisher here and our authors here. Here's our publication location. If I scroll down a little bit more, we've got down toward this one. Oh, hey, there's the journal name. Here's the month and year. There's the volume number, there's the issue number. So again, it really depends on the source you're using and how they print it as to where you're going to find this information. This is actually chapter 3. I wanted to use just this chapter out of this book. And so there's a way to cite that as well. And if I'm using APA, I'm good to go because all the information's here. I can do a copy, I can do a paste, and I am golden. Well, we're not looking at APA, we're looking at MLA. So that may not be the best avenue. But it does have all the information I need. So I could just plug and chug what I find in here. I just have to make sure I put it in the correct order and that I'm punctuating it correctly. Let's go ahead and go back to our PowerPoint. So as I noted earlier, There are special add-ins for each specific type, so make sure you know what those are and what that should look like. For anyone who's using the online library, there's a great resource for you, and I'd like to show you what that is. So let me get to my webpage and select that. We're going to close out. So depending on your campus, it might be down this side, it might be across this side, it might be down this side. But you're going to look for this word that says Cite. You're going to click on it. It pulls up an entire plethora of citations. So depending on what standard you're using will depend on which one of these you select. Please note, and I've seen this happen quite a few times, I've had students who do the APA, but we're not looking at APA right now. We're looking at MLA. So you need to scroll down a little further. There it is, MLA. This is the most recent edition. I can copy this. I can paste it into my Word document. And the last thing I have to do is just make sure that it comes over correctly. Hanging indent, Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spaced. And another little tip for you, sometimes if you see it's got this gray background, it'll actually pull the gray background over with it into your document. So you have to know how to get that background to disappear. And sometimes it can actually change the color of your font to a gray scale. So if that happens, just be mindful that you need to put it back into that solid black font type so that it stands out on the page. Let's go ahead and go back to our PowerPoint. So when using an online source generator, and yes, I know that students do this, and yes, I know it's available, and I'm not going to stop you from doing it. I just want you to be mindful of the information you're looking for so that you have it, because you want to fill in as much information as possible. Remember that too much information is better than too little when it comes to your citation. And when you put your sources into your Works Cited page, you want to make sure that you have the hanging indent, double spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman. And make sure your Works Cited is always on the top of that new page. If you submit your paper and you see that it jumps it onto the page before, or the page down the page a little bit, and I have seen this happen, you might want to print to PDF just to make sure that your formatting stays solid and clear. All right, that is all I have for you right now on MLA. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out. Just send me a message using that LMS system. All right, again, make sure you are citing your sources, and just because you've been researching it for years and you know about it doesn't mean that your audience does. So make sure you do find sources that help to support you, and make sure they're those nice, strong, peer-reviewed sources. You want to be the expert. You've been doing all this legwork. May as well really make yourself shine and viewed as credible, because at this point, with as much work as you've put in, you are. All right, thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the flip side.